Good morning. I'm about to introduce you to a boat that you are going to fall in love with. It's a 25-foot Ranger Tug, and what a cutie pie. This boat just has it all. And what I was doing this past weekend was I was assessing the vessel for use kind of in the passenger trade, but it's more of a client perk type of thing, so it's not going to be chartered vessel, but more of just a gift that my client gives to her clients when she sells them a home. She's a realtor and she wants to be able to take people along the water and show them homes on the water, as well as thank them for purchasing from her by giving them a little trip on the boat. So it's not really a charter boat, kind of like a bareboat. She doesn't have to have a captain. She could run it herself, but she just wants to be able to be freed up to talk with her clients while I run the boat. And we wanted to go through and assess some things. I arrived at the boat with 3 pages of what I wanted to accomplish for the day. And my main goals were, first of all, to meet U.S. Coast Guard safety equipment requirements to ensure that the vessel is in compliance, but then also in compliance with federal regulations, but then also all those things that aren't required, but for safety you need anyway, like anchors and things like that. The other was to assess the vessel for use in the passenger trade. This is bringing non-boaters onto a small, lightweight boat and paying special attention to passenger safety, their comfort, and I knew I would be specifically looking at noise, vibration, and engine smell. I thought of a better way to say that the other day. It's not engine smell, but noise, vibration, and engine emissions to make sure that passengers are comfortable all the time. And then my third prong of this was to assess the the owner's concerns and priorities for her events, and that was some trip planning, some figuring out what speeds we would operate, items like that. So I arrived at the boat with 3 pages of items that I wanted to check, and I was so glad that I did, because when I got to the boat, I was like a spastic squirrel. I was so in love with the boat that I'd look at this and I'd look at that and I'd look at that, and I was all over the place in my notes, but at least I had a list, and so I eventually covered everything in my list in a bit of a random order. I hope you find this useful, because it's an extremely thorough look through on this boat. The owner did have the survey from the previous buyer, but she did not have her own survey done. With the 25-foot boat, you're thinking, how much can go wrong? And actually there was very little wrong on the boat. There was a whole lot right, but there were some things that I looked at and realized that we could make even better, specifically for the passenger trade and for her clients. So here goes. I feel I would be remiss if I didn't give you a bit of a recap. You saw in the videos some of the things that I was looking at. It was a really hot day, and sometimes I was looking at something, but then I couldn't hold the camera, like something with the engine, and I didn't give you a chance to hear what my thinking was on the whole item. So I'm going to run through really quickly the items that were the most important. One of them was, of course, speed, RPMs, noise reduction, and routes. We didn't get to routes because the vessel didn't have the correct gear on board, and I did get to listen to the engine and didn't get to set up my chart for RPMs and what speeds we would operate, but we will do that next. I did look at anchor size, and I am just curious. I want to assess, and if you guys see this picture and you say, yeah, that anchor is way too small for that boat, I was so overwhelmed by how cute the boat was, I didn't look at the size of the anchor and see what the weight was. I just went, I was so amazed that the windlass worked from inside the cabin that I didn't take a careful look. And I also need to look up the boat specs and see what the boat specs say, what type of an anchor it needs. And then, of course, I'm not going to trust any of that, because we're going to take the boat out and we're going to set the anchor. We're going to put a lot of pressure on it and see what it would actually do if we had a big storm. You did see the thing about the port running light being upside down. That was pretty funny. My father says, well, that would have come from the factory like that, and nobody noticed it until now. I don't know for sure. We definitely going over the courtesy and the traditions with the flags on the boat. In the aft, there's a seat that you can sit on, but it's uncomfortably high. Your legs kind of dangle, and I think a heavy cooler underneath it would give some added space for drinks, for beverages, and also give those people a place to set their feet. Definitely not to stand on, because that could be tippy, but that would be something. Also, even though it's not necessarily required for this side vessel, I think a throwable ring and a light at the stern would make sense, because if the Type 4 throwable is supposed to be in reach of the person at the helm, the stern is way back from the helm. It's somewhere far away, and you can look out the window and see, but I still think it would be prudent to have that there. The throwable ring light. When running downwind, like I said, we're probably going to jibe back and forth. And in the aft cockpit, she does have all sorts of shades that can go on different sides of the boat, so that's going to be really helpful. Sometimes when the sun is just bearing in on one side, like you get back to the dock and you're going to sit and maybe have a sundowner or something, you want to block the sun from that one direction. One of the things that I don't think I mentioned in the videos was I thoroughly checked through all the electronics, and when I toggled the running light switch back and forth from running light to anchor light, there was chatter on the radio, you know, and so that means there's possibly a spark back there. We need to check the wiring. There's something going on. You need an electrician, marine electrician, to check that out thoroughly. And the other was this shifting cable. The engine is so high powered, and it's got a nice big prop that when you put it into gear, the boat really goes. But then I noticed that the throttle is not necessarily smooth, so that could be maybe some lubrication. We'll check the linkage, we'll check these cables again, and just double check. This boat does not have an emergency tiller, so if we lose steering or we lose throttle or anything like that, it's a kill the engine and anchor type of situation. That's all we would do. I did notice that all of the engine mounts were really corroded. I did recommend replacing those and adding those anti-vibration donuts that go under them. I think that would do a lot to help reduce the noise. Also, that barrier in the engine compartment, that could be beefed up, and I'm going to look and see if it would be a good or horrible idea to also put some on the overhead. And then, like I said, a really simple solution is going to be to throw down a rug that's going to reduce some of the vibration and the noise there. The first cushion when you come into the cabin, that's the spot that everybody's going to put their hands. This comes under my list of kind of aesthetic items. That would be where we need a little bit of a cover over the edge of that cushion, because everybody with their sunscreen, when they first come in, that's the first thing they're going to touch. It's going to end up looking pretty grimy. The next was that in the head, there is the most adorable little porthole that looks aft, which is wonderful, but I think some people aren't used to being on boats and that there's not as much privacy as there is on land, and the French solution is a doily in that porthole. It just kind of blocks, you know, allows the light, but yet blocks some of the view, and I think some people would feel from inside there's such a clear view to the outside that they might think people can look at. We do need a tiny trash can in the head. We also need some envelopes for the ladies for feminine products, and a definitely good talk through on that when we do our spiel. Also need a small trash can for in the cabin. There's some standing around the port windows. I'm looking into solutions for that. If any of you know solutions for what to do with that, let me know. The owner did have someone come and scrub, but scrubbing makes pills and pulls in that material, and so if anybody has a really good solution for, I don't think it's to paint it, you don't want to dye it a different color. If you have a solution, please let us know. The next would be, of course, we're going to, other than the melamine cups and bowls and plates, all plastic has to go, because people are that's just a very eco-conscious thing these days, is to make sure you're not serving people on plastic. It's worth the time to wash. And the boat has got the most adorable flatware that has little knots on it. And why am I always filming about the time that the trash arrives? Another thing is a medium tray for moving service items around on the boat so that you can carry more than one thing at a time. And you may laugh, but the rule is, oh, Jasper, the rule is no red wine, because it sure does stain, and no spray sunscreens, because the spray sunscreens are going to make the deck slippery, and that's dangerous. And also, of course, we will stock reef safe sunscreens on the boat. I'll be bringing my Stream to Sea as always, because that's the only one that's definitely reef safe. All the others are claiming it, but they're not necessarily. I would say also by the settee, there's one window that the handle needs reaffixing, and the owner wanted to super glue it back on. It's already come off once by that. I think some type of a marine epoxy is probably necessary. In the cockpit, the teak really needs some treatment. You probably saw that it looks really bad, and it's not going to last too long looking like that. And as far as this would not be an aesthetic thing, but more of a comfort of passenger and crew, would be at the helm to have a very small fan, and at the co-pilot seat to have a small fan. They can be rechargeable, they can be 12 volt, but just to get the air circulation moving. I don't know if you noticed, but on the front for the windshield, you have 4 fantastic windshields. They all have windshield wipers. However, that means they don't open, so you can't get air through there. You can get air through the sides, but it doesn't really get scooped in like on an old Volkswagen Beetle. So I think a fan would be a lifesaver right there. Some of the other things, even though the policy for children wearing life jackets is 6 and under, wear them inland, I think we will stick with 13 and under. In our area in Florida, 13 and under must wear them offshore, 6 and under wear them inland. We're going to go with 13 and under. That way, if you've got siblings, there's no arguing over you have to wear it and I don't. You know, it's just children wear life jackets. That's it. We also need a Type 4 throwable. There wasn't one on the boat. We need 3 flares good for day and night. There was only 1 good for day and 1 good for night, and we also need 2 fire extinguishers that are in date. Even if the little gauge is in the green, flip the fire extinguisher and look at the bottom of it. If they're over 12 years old, they're not considered correct. You could keep them on the boat to use as a backup, but you still want ones that are in date. And I'll tell you something between you and me, and this is just kind of like some insider tip that Jasper, that he's jumping up here on where the tripod is. Insider tip is this boat is so cute. This is like the red Corvette on the highway. The red Corvette speeds, it's going to get pulled over. If this boat is doing anything, it's going to get pulled. The coasties are going to want to look at it because she's so cute. They're going to come up with reasons to pull you over. They're going to want to check everything on the boat so that they can hang out and look at how cute the boat is. Knowing that everything has to be in compliance, every last little thing, because if they just come on the boat, I wish you could see Jasper, he's lying on my clipboard right down here making sure to stay close, but they are going to want to come on the boat. They're going to want to look at every last little thing, and if they only pick 2 things to look at and one of those things is wrong, then we've got a problem. So everything's got to be correct. So we are going to have to verify that the holding tank, we're going to throw some dye in it, verify exactly where is that going, what's the pump out system for that. We also, smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. These are things that you need, even if you feel like your vessel is safe. Thing about the carbon monoxide, it can be the boat next to you, it can be their propane, it can be their exhaust that's not vented properly, they could have some type of leaks, and all of those fumes can accumulate by your stern, they can accumulate in your cockpit, and this is a bit of a closed cockpit, so you definitely want those alarms because you don't want other people's fumes, you know, endangering your crew. We also need the current registration and documentation on the boat. That's really important. And even if your vessel is documented, you do need to carry your state's registration for the state that the vessel is operating in. And so that's something that we've got to make sure and put on the boat. A couple of other things that would be not compliance but recommended for safety, recommended for efficient operation, was some rechargeable high lume flashlights. The boat does have a spotlight that can swivel around, but if you need to look at something that's somewhere other than in the arc of that, some of those high lume lightweight flashlights are going to be really important. In a handheld VHF, there's a VHF at the steering station, but if you're back at in the cockpit and you want to communicate with somebody, that's going to be important. Bleeding control, there is a first aid kit on the boat, kind of a boo-boo kit with some, there are some plasters, some band-aids, some things like that. I think there's probably, I looked in it briefly, there's aspirin, a little bit of gauze, but we definitely want on the boat. And if anytime I'm on the boat, my kit's going to be on the boat, and I can refer you to my video about what I carry on the boat, my VanQuest kit, but you definitely want tourniquets, wound packing material, and elastic bandage at the least, and maybe even a blanket and some other materials in there. Duct tape's always a good thing, but just in case, the chances are it's not going to be somebody on your boat that's going to be injured. You're going to be picking up somebody who got a prop cut from another vessel, somebody who's maybe under the influence and has an accident. That's who you're probably going to need the bleeding control kit for. Most likely it's not going to be anybody on your boat, but if you have it, you have it, and that's good. If you don't have it, you're going with an improvised tourniquet, which is better than a counterfeit tourniquet. However, it'd be nicer to have the correct things on hand if you were to ever need them. I also recommended, and these are kind of safety and efficient operation, the engine maintenance logbook. I didn't see one. Also the engine manual. I didn't see the engine manual, so that's something we can download. The owner was already very proactive, downloaded the vessel's whole vessel manual, which I took pictures of some of the important pages on. She's downloaded the vessel manual, but also not only an engine maintenance logbook, but a separate logbook that's for the vessel's travels. And I can't wait. I think I'm not supposed to tell you the name of the boat yet. So I can't wait. If I'm able to, I'll leave it in the comments below. But there's also going to be the possibility of a children's book and a little bit of the travels of this particular perky, red, adorable, cute 25-foot Ranger Tug. The other, of course, is going to be a guest passenger book who came on the boat. After that, some of the procedures I've got that we need to set up digital alerts for expirables. These days it's so easy. I mean, even in your cell phone you can set up a when do your fire extinguishers expire, when do your flares expire. That's really easy to do. Captain's credentials and drug testing consortium letter. If you're going to have crew, they need to have a drug testing consortium letter, or they need to be enrolled in a random drug testing program. 50% of your employees. So if she has 2 employees, half of them. But technically, I think the captain and the crew would need to. And I don't know that we're going to be going with crew, but as she's going to be crew, I think we're going to need to get her set up in one of those programs. Routes. This is something really important. We want to establish for this boat exactly how long it takes to get to this spot and back. We don't want to promise someone that we're going to get to this location and then realize that we're really not there at all. So we're going to do like a south to Crescent Beach, a north to Caps, the airport, Guana, east and south to the lighthouse, the conch house, the yacht club, and just determine some distance and how far can we get comfortably in one amount of time. So that's going to be a fun day because we're going to run all over the place timing these things out. And also we've come up with all of our bunch of possible lunch stops, which would be Kingfish Grill, Beaches, Caps, Kate's, and then I've got to look and see some of the destinations that are further south, because with the sailboats I tend not to go through the Bridge of Lions because it's on a half-hour schedule. But this boat can probably, I'll have to check and see if she's under 28 feet. She can go under the Bridge of Lions without waiting. She's already docked south of the Bridge of Lions, so we might be able to go look at some lunch spots a little bit further south. I did come up with information for the website, some basics like what to wear, the environment, the sea life, boat traffic, bridges, developments, natural areas, schedule, things that people who are going to be coming on the boat would like to see, and this saves her the time of having to explain all or text it to them. She could just say, hey, all the information is on the boat's website. I almost said the name of the boat. All the information is on the boat's website. Here's the website, and you'll find everything there. And that just saves her, you know, they can have a checklist. They can see exactly what's going on, and she doesn't have to go through it. She can get back to the business of showing home. For specialty events, we are thinking about some things like blankets and binoculars and items like that. That will be a little bit for, you know, some logo items. And of course, logo for the crew. We haven't figured out the gratuities for captain and crew. I know on a lot of vessels, and you guys leave your comments below what you think about that. This is not where people are coming on the boat for hire. This would be more like if someone owns a mega yacht and they invite their friends on the mega yacht. Do their friends tip the captain and crew or not? I'm okay with it either way. I always feel like a gratuity is not expected. It's appreciated. It is so appreciated. And sometimes when you have people that come on the boat, like when we do a charter and some of the people are a guest of other people on the boat, they always tip because they've already given their hosts wine or food or whatever, but they want to show their appreciation in another manner, and so they also tip the captain and crew. And I'm okay with that. But if we're going to set the policy, we need to go ahead and set the policy of what it's going to be, so that if it is no tipping, we can put it on the website so people know that they don't have to arrive with cash, because a lot of people don't carry cash anymore. Although I have had a lot of Venmo tips lately. Some of the other things would be, crew, what's our uniform going to be? Is it going to be a logo shirt? What color? You know, is it sandals? Is it topsiders? What exactly are? And because this is not a vessel where, oh, how do I explain this? There's some techniques if you're a charter boat captain. There's some techniques for eliciting tips from passengers, and I could probably write an article on this, and they're everything from making sure that you're greeting the passengers at the dock and helping them on with their bags, helping them off, make sure they haven't forgotten anything. And we have had some captains in our fleet who do some funny things, like they never wear new shoes because they're afraid it'll look like they're too affluent and too, you know, that they're making their way, and so they wear old shoes to make sure they look a little bit down around the mouth and tippable. So we're definitely going to come up with a policy for what's expected in that situation, so that it's not awkward for people, so that they know don't. If it's a don't, they know don't do it. The next thing that's really huge, and this is going to take a couple days to set out, is every one of our emergency procedures, because there's a possibility we'll have more than one captain on the vessel. Then we need a written procedure. We need to plan it, practice it, and have it standard. This is just going to be the procedure for this, for man overboard, for fire, for taking on water, for collision, for medical emergencies, for running aground, for engine problems, and for weather situations. So those are all huge. That's huge. That's going to be several days of work to establish those procedures. And I want to bring you along the whole voyage on this adorable 25-foot red Ranger Tug with us. I hope you found this information useful. I will produce my whole list. I'll put it on the blog at Deepwater Happy so that you can kind of look through this. If you're thinking of becoming a charter boat captain, you're thinking about using your vessel for charters, here are the things that I was thinking about. Now, these are very specific to a powerboat, not a sailboat, but some of them are still viable for any vessel. And of course, you'll find some other funny little things in here, so I'll give you a teaser on that. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. I hope you're going to use some of this information. I hope you head over to the blog at Deepwater Happy and pull yourself a copy of this, print it out, and think about your vessel. And do you have these things in place? Are your passengers comfortable? I mean, hey, right? This is a whole big thing. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe so you get a notification for the next video. And I hope you enjoyed watching this. Leave any comments below if you have any recommendations or suggestions for any of the things that I mentioned, even things I didn't ask about. If you have more ideas for engine noise and vibration reduction, please let me know. It's all good. Thank you so much for watching. Wait, I have to show you Jasper. Ooh, he's been waiting patiently for his cameo. No, kitty. Yes.